So when we look at this, it's basically the star, and then everything will be based off bits from this machine. So we'll have the chassis, we'll have the battery, some compartments, and we'll have like all of the PCBAs and all that kind of stuff, and then form the basis for a much wider range. Okay, so that's kind of our thinking moving forward. When I start at the front of the machine, I'll work my way back, and then eventually what we'll do is we'll sort of look at sort of the user interface. Okay. Front, we got the LEDs, and I think there's a total of, it's 20 LEDs throughout the machine. So you've got front, and then you've also got LEDs on the side of the machine as well. Okay. Then casters, sort of on either side, with double ball bearings throughout the whole machine. Moving back, when you're sitting in the machine, there is like a little, which you'll see a little later, there is a series of LEDs over there that then mimics the batteries over here, because you can't see the battery status when you're actually sitting in the machine. So later on, when we have a look at the machine, when you're actually sitting, you'll see the green light with the battery status. Okay. Your foot pedal, there is no accelerator because all the acceleration sort of forwards, backwards, left and right is all done by handballs. Okay. On the deck itself, if I go and lower the deck, so lowest cutting height in the European machine is 25mm, and that goes up to 110. Okay. What we have are two motors, so there's no belts, there's none of that kind of business. If you want to then go and sort of attach or remove the deck, it's simply undo the sort of the little pins at the back of here. So take those little pins out, that then slides out, and you'll notice that if I look on this one over here, what you can see is that you've got these two connectors. Okay, and you can't mix them around because it's sort of one size fits all, or it's pokey-okey, I suppose. So you know, you can't get it wrong, and that's it. So there's no belt maintenance, there's no belt tensioning, there's no sort of idea that sort of when you want to go and clean the deck, it just slide the deck out. Okay, and then in terms of the blades, that's sort of the pilot blade is actually fits into that. So what you got is two blades, they're not timed, and that's why you got them sort of slightly offset from each other. Okay, we wouldn't have a timed deck because it's very hard to do that electronically. So as soon as the blade takes a knock, you would then have that situation where the two blades can hit each other. Okay. You then have a cleaning port on the side, which, to be honest, I mean, I don't think we'd reuse very often at all. Most people just tend to sort of either just take the deck out and scrape it clean. Okay. Moving back around sort of more towards the rear of the machine, cup holders, and then you have your USB port and also your storage. So USB down there, so if you want to keep your phone charged and so on, because this machine is actually IoT enabled. So what we're doing is we're working on an app and all of that kind of stuff for the European market. So the idea that you can actually monitor the usage of the machine, and in the future that will also mean that you can actually diagnose faults, potential faults on your machine. Okay. Charging points, that's a single charging point. So we have a 1600 watt charger that comes with the machine. But you can also use your 550 watt charger, so the standard Ego charger that you have for your hand tools. With an adapter, you can actually plug that into. It just takes a little longer. Yep. Okay. Coming around to the battery side, this is kind of where all the business really happens. Okay. So you've got 6 slots, and the idea is that it's peak power. So instead of taking the battery energy sequentially, or sort of using this battery that and then going that, it basically draws energy from all the batteries whenever it's needed. So when it needs high power, it's basically drawing all of that energy in one go, and that is unique to us. Whereas everyone else has to use the battery energy sort of sequentially, we just basically dump it. Okay. Another unique thing for us, other people are starting to sort of copy us, is the whole idea that these batteries can then be used in all of your other tools. Okay, so that when customers actually end up using these, you can have a series of 10 amp hour or even this year a 12 amp hour battery, but then you can also use your smaller batteries. Okay. Another cool thing is that you can also store all your batteries in here, charge it, and if you only want to use the batteries for your hand tools, you've got them in there anyway because they're charged much quicker. In terms of maintenance, well, there isn't very much at all. The only thing that you've got to do is probably clean your deck. Okay. If you wanted to do any kind of servicing and so on, which you probably wouldn't want to do, there are 4 bolts to remove the seat, and then basically remove the seat. Underneath the seats is where you've got all of your PCBAs and stuff, so there's 6 of them. There's 1 for the battery, 1 for the battery management system, 1 for the screen, and then 1 for each motor. Okay, so 6 in total, and then there's space for more because remember this is the platform. So in future we'll come up with bigger deck sizes and so on where we need extra blades. There's space for that already, and it's all just USB-C connectors. So if somebody wanted to do any work on it, just plug it in to your laptop and then all the work is done. Okay. You then have a phone holder, safety key, which is kind of unique to European machines. In the US, don't need it at all. Okay. And then what we can do is we can then sort of go through. On this particular machine at the moment, it comes with the mulching plug. Okay. The idea really and that's it. And there we go. Okay. My favorite is that you're going to get the maximum runtime out of a side discharge machine because there's no obstruction to the wind. What you've got to remember on battery tools is that wind equals energy consumption. You know, look at the blowers. You know, if you want to run on battery, just run it on turbo. On the mulching kit, it's not that much of a difference. But when you go and fit the collector kit, that's when the real difference happens because you're basically forcing all of this air back up and over onto the back of the machine. Okay.
Do you know the reduction there in, you say you do up to 2.5 acres on the 612 amps. Yep. If you then collect in, what does that minimize to?
Looking at around about an acre.
Okay,
so it's quite a big, big drop. So when customers, and then there are other factors because you may then also go and say to the customer, hey, you know, when it comes with a standard blade, the wind generation isn't quite as high. So your collection may not be as good. And then if you go and fit a high level set of blades, your runtime then reduces further. So then you get down to that sort of acre point. Okay. So it's kind of, and that's where when you go onto the website and you put in, you know, so you measure on Google Earth, is it Google Earth these days? You measure on Google Earth, that will then give you your sort of acreage. Then click on, do you want to collect or mulch or whatever the case may be, and then that will then give you your battery, your ideal battery configuration. Okay, cool. So that's done over there, and then you've also got that. Okay, to start the machine, it's basically hold that in, and then the first thing that you'll do, if you just hold it down for like a second or so, is it will just show you how much energy is left in the batteries that you've got in. Okay, so I'm at 84% of the go. I can then go and hold it down and you'll hear a beep eventually and everything displays. You then come back to this 84%, and if you come a little closer, you'll see that there's 1, 2 and 3. Slots 1, 2 and 3 are actually off full. Okay, then there's other information that's sort of said. I've got different driving modes, so I can go and hit sports or control. Control is if you've never ridden this thing before and you just don't know how to use it. I would suggest that you start in control, but after about a minute or so it gets a little bit frustrating because it's a little bit too slow, so you end up in standard mode, and that's what you're going to do most of your work in. If you're traveling between sort of one area to the next, you can then go into sport mode, but the faster you go, so does your cutting performance. So there's that compromise, yeah. So, and that you can also then set. So what this driving mode does is it kind of limits how twitchy the machine is. So if I'm in control mode, basically it's not twitchy at all. If I then go into sport mode and I just do that, it becomes quite jerky. But that's sort of expecting that you're quite kind of used to the minute movements that you need to actually control the machine. Okay. Then there are things like cruise control. I think cruise control is probably the wrong word, but what you can do is you can limit the speed on the machine. So if I look down the left hand side over here, on a zero turn machine, going sort of hard, what you want to do is you want to have it fully extended. That's the most comfortable position. Holding it midway is actually a little bit of a challenge. So what you then go and do is you go and limit your speed. So similar to your car, when you're on one of these like weird motorways that are doing an average speed and sticking it, instead of sticking it on cruise control, you're sticking it on a speed limiter, and then you're basically putting it on full gas all the time. Same thing over here. Okay, so you get to a point where you're kind of happy with the performance of the machine. You then go and say, okay, well that's the maximum speed that I want in cruise control, or in sort of driving speed. I'm happy with it in standard mode because I'm kind of comfortable with how to operate the machine. And then depending on what you want to do in terms of collect multi-side discharge. So most of the energy is actually used up by the blades because again it's wind. Okay, so then I can go and adjust the blade speed. So there's 4 different blade speeds. So if I'm going to be doing side discharge, I'm going to have the lowest. If I'm going to be doing collection, I'm going to be basically whacking up the blade speed. Okay. Then there are also sort of other sort of hidden driving modes. So if I've got a full grass box, or I want to go and get something from the garage or whatever the case may be, and I'm not cutting anymore, then I can hold down the speed button and then I get into travel mode. And basically what that is the fastest that the thing will travel. Okay, and if you're, it can actually do a couple of minutes, but that's not supposed to be. Okay.
What is the top speed?
I can't remember. It's something like, I think it's 13.
Is it?
Yeah, 13 miles an hour.
That's 30 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's quick.
No.
It is quick. You'll have a go in a minute. Okay. So then there are other things that are displayed. So if you've got something connected via the USB port, it will show that it's connected. At the moment it says that it's locked, so basically I can't do anything on the machine, but I'll show you how to change that. Then you've got an hour meter, so basically it shows you how many hours this machine has actually been running. This one is on 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay, so we're on a brand new machine. And then there are other sort of small little things. If you want to go and reset it back to factory mode, and you get to that first state over there, you know, where there's no information on the machine itself. So if you go and hold these two down, hold on, she's not doing it today. Okay, so because it's an electronic machine, you can basically adjust all sorts of things. So what you're doing here is basically you're calibrating the left and right. So what you want to do is push these forward at the same time, and you want to go in an exact straight line. Okay, and what you can do, instead of on sort of petrol machines you would be adjusting sort of the gearing and the hydrostatic system, here what you're doing is you're just basically adjusting the motor sensitivity. Okay, so you can go minus and you're basically biasing the left, or you can go plus and you're biasing the right. Okay, and then it basically, once that's done, it's set for life. So you only have to do that once. If for some other reason it starts to creep to the left, you can just always go back into the setting again. Okay, and then once you're happy with it, hit the mode button, or sorry, the set button, and you're back to this position over there. Okay. What you can also do on the other way around is you can hit the light and the mode, and basically that then gives you your factory reset. Okay, so it's right back to start. Because it does have a kind of a sort of a memory. So when you're using the machine constantly in standard mode, in blade setting number 2 and maximum speed number 2, you don't have to go and reset that every single time you get onto the machine. Okay, so to actually use the machine, hold that down and then you get like the full display, and you'll get a little light down in the middle. As soon as I go and release the park brake, you can see a little light in the middle that illuminates. So basically saying this machine is ready to go. What you then do, push the handles together. Okay. When you get reverse, it's quite simple, back, and then you'll get the feel. Okay. When you want to engage the blades, it's basically just pull it up. And then if I get off the machine, it will automatically, there's a sensor in the seat that basically says, yeah, you're there or not. Okay.